Hi, I'm Sarah Hodges of Hodges Coaching, and I'm making a special feature for you guys today because I have so many of my clients who hear comments and recommendations I make about having a really positive, forward-moving feedback, or I sometimes call it feed forward, interview or meeting with their staff. And they're often really confused. They're like, how do I do that? What does that even mean? Can I just tell them what they're doing wrong and have them go fix it? But we want to have meetings that create a sense of social safety, that really motivate our staff and help them move forward. So today I'm live going to be doing feedback or feed forward with two of my staff members, two interns that I've had this summer, Justin and Emily. And I'm going to be asking them some questions and give you, and even talk to you guys in between it, you executives out there who are watching this, so that you can get a sense of what I'm doing and why, and really understand how this is working behind the scenes. So full disclosure, feed forward is something that I learned in my coaching program from the Neuro Leadership Institute. And I want to give them credit for that terminology. And then I've spun it out on my own, like I always do. So let's welcome Justin. Justin, let's go ahead and turn on your video and unmute you. Are you there, Justin? There, all right. Hey, Justin. So you guys may know Justin if you watch my podcast. I'm always talking to Justin in the background. He's the guy who's making things run well. So Justin, we probably have about 20 minutes to do this. We're going to make it quick and dirty. Oh, by the way, say hi to Susie in the background. She's my little office doggy hanging out. So there's basically four components of how I run these. The first section is asking you what you're really proud of, what you've done really well, so that we can celebrate that. The second question is what you maybe would have done differently, and how you kind of want to change things, you know, what you would have to let go of maybe in order to move forward. Then we're going to define some goals, and then we're going to talk about how I can support you. Okay, does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, and it might be a little more fluid than that. I might skip some questions. We'll see. But let's start with the top one. What are you? So you've been working here for like not super long, like 2 months basically.
Like a little over 2 months, I think.
Yeah. Gosh, it feels like longer. You've been doing an outstanding job, and I basically just like threw you in the fire. I was like, here, figure it out, or maybe threw you in the lake is a better term. Learn how to swim. So what are you the most proud
of? I think I'm proud of the stuff that I actually produce, like the content I was able to, or the ideas and content I was able to provide to the podcast and everything around your company, because you give me a lot of like creative freedom almost. Like you give me guidelines and say, do this task, but then that's pretty much it. You let me kind of take the reins on most of the things, and like just creating the whole concept behind the podcast and like the workflow on how we're going to do it. And you let me do the intro video to like promote the podcast, and I was really proud of that. And creating the name for it, like you really just gave me like full range of freedom to do whatever I want. And sometimes ideas get shot down and sometimes they go really well. So I think I'm proud of like feeling like I have stuff to contribute to your company, I guess.
Thank you. Well, you absolutely have. I mean, some of the stuff that you've come up with is way better than anything that I could have dreamt up. And so you've really done an absolutely incredible job in taking the reins and driving us, you know, through those projects and really creating it and putting your stamp on it, you know. So I'm glad that that's what you're proud of, because that's probably what I'm the most proud of.
Yeah, it gives me like I have a tangible like value on the company, because like Executives Uncut, like I felt like I had a part of that. And then like the intro video for the podcast and just a lot of the stuff behind the scenes for StreamYard, and while we're actually running the podcast, like I feel like I have an actual contribution to it.
You
good.
Absolutely, and you're going to be editing this video too, so you're going to get more contributions to come. So in what areas are you feeling you're really confident, just the most confident?
I think I'm gaining overall confidence for I guess the platforms like StreamYard, like taking control of how to make it run efficiently. That's our podcast platform for people who don't really know.
Yeah.
Um, like just being in the background and making everything run smoothly, and taking control of where they go, and Buzzsprout also, which is the audio hosting for the podcast. And then also I feel more confident with just the other little software platforms that you've introduced me to, just like that you have to use in any corporation that I go to, like in the
Mhm.
future, like pretty much
Like
any company
CRM
is gonna
stuff. Yeah.
CRM, like Google Calendar, which I didn't even like know how to use, just simple stuff like
Yeah, at
that.
first
Like
I was like, I don't know about this kid.
just just a couple kinks that needed to be evened out, and I don't know. I feel like overall confidence around those areas have improved.
Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I definitely seen you develop a lot in those areas. What has surprised you the most?
Um, I guess it goes back to the freedom part. Like you give me tasks and assignments to take care of, but then that's pretty much it. Like I got to take care of it myself. So it was a little bit surprising at first, but it's a good like adaptation to get used to, because I'm sure in the future I'm not, it's beneficial to not be babied everywhere you go. So just like figure it out yourself is helped me learn a lot.
Good. I'm glad. Well, we're gonna get to where I can support you and where you need support at the end. But
Yeah.
it sounds like at first you could have used a little bit more support, but at the same time you appreciated being able to take the ownership of those projects, and so you were incentivized to figure it out yourself. Is that what I'm hearing, or did I?
Yeah, a little bit. And it was
Yeah.
like at the beginning, I didn't exactly know what I was getting into. Like I had a good idea, but there were a lot of areas I was just unsure of. And even like the business development side, like the LinkedIn, like prospecting stuff, I wasn't like super psyched about it, but I realized that it's part of the process of running your own business, and I realized the value of like actually doing it. It's kind of the backbone of what makes like businesses run, especially like an entrepreneur. So I guess that was a surprise in a sort of way, and I came to understand and value that part of that.
Good. I'm so glad. Well, and so, let's move into kind of the what would you have done differently? And this is an opportunity for you to be like, oh man, I did not show up how I wanted to here. And this is a safe space for that, right? I'm not going to be like, yeah, you shouldn't have,
Yeah,
we're just gonna be like, okay, cool, that happened. Because here's the thing, you only know what you know at the time when you know it, right? And then you do it and
exactly.
then you learn things later. So there's no shame in that. So, what is something where maybe you would have done differently looking back?
Yeah, I think about this like quite often. I feel like I'll have a better answer after it's all like said and done. Like when you get to
Yep.
look back at it, you probably get a better idea, because I'm only like 2/3 of the way through it, or
Uh
like
huh.
halfway through it, I guess. But um I think I got what I was looking for in terms of experience. I think maybe working in a more corporate team with a couple like more people would have been a different experience, but it's not necessarily something I regret, because it's me, you, and Emily, what the one other intern, which is a
Hmm.
small group, and I like that a lot. But maybe if it was an environment with an actual team and you were working on sort of projects all together, I guess
Mm.
it would have been a different experience. But that's like the one thing I could think of that
So
like,
it sounds like you like it, but maybe it can be a little isolating at times.
yeah, I guess
Yeah, it is the middle of COVID too, so I I feel
that's
the same
true.
way.
That affects a
I'd
lot of
rather,
things too.
yeah, I'd rather have you guys in my office, like hanging out and working on stuff together. But yeah, I totally see what you mean. It's different also working for a small business, right, than a large
Right.
corporate organization. And then in terms of like your day to day in in the way that you work, is there anything where you're like, oh, I wish I would have put in more hours that week, or oh, I didn't really do what I said I was going to do at that point.
Yeah.
Where anything like that, where you're like, oh, you know what, so that we can talk about how to make that better going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a lot of like you give me um set assignments, and you can do the bare minimum, I suppose, but everything after that is kind of you, which goes in for a lot of, it's like applicable to sports and pretty much any other thing. Like you have to do more outside of practice. Like that would pretty much just be me. It's a lot of like research and like understanding the target market and understanding your software. So literally just like watching tutorial videos on how to do stuff more detailed and specifically. And I guess just putting more effort into, I guess, that sort of stuff. It would just be, um, yeah, like I would say research, but that's like the putting in the more hours. I don't think I could like put actual more work in, like prospecting on LinkedIn. There's only so much you can do, but outside of that you can always find a way to improve your target market or improve like the way you're running or using your software or whatever platform you're on. So I guess that's it.
I love it. So you're saying that like what you may have done differently is that once you got comfortable with the bare minimum, with executing your tasks, to learn, take more initiative to read tutorials, learn how to improve it, expand, learn new software. So that's great. What are some things you're excited about that you want to learn and do better at, where we can set goals around them for the coming month?
Yeah. So I think the fact that I can still improve in the future, like the topic I just hit is not, it's very applicable to the upcoming month, like to finish out like what we're doing here. And I'm very excited to potentially see the other side of, so there's me and Emily runs like the public relations and marketing side of this operation. And hopefully we get to switch and experience each other's day-to-day activities and how the other side runs. So I think that'll be very insightful and valuable to see the rest of the operation, because it's not just me and it's not just you.
Yeah, and to give the executives watching a little more context, what I have the interns do is, while they're developing a new project, to take a very, very detailed workflow of very detailed, kind of write instructions for the next person who might take over. And then I'm having them swap jobs for at least a week or two to test each other's workflows, improve it. And that way, no matter who's sitting in the role, they'll be able to improve upon the workflow, and they'll be able to learn new skills, like Justin said, but we won't really have an interruption in the work that we're doing, because the instruction manual is right there. So pretty cool. I'm excited to try it too.
Right.
So some goals around that. What are some goals you have?
I think in terms of what I'm doing right now, because there's still kinks that need to be worked on and I can still improve on my aspects, which is LinkedIn prospecting and running the podcast, because we just started to finally figure out the podcast and ran it live for the first time today, actually.
Yeah.
So that's becoming more of a comfort level. It's becoming more of a automatic thing, which is good. And then so I guess a goal surrounding that would be to promote it, I suppose, or find a better way to get people involved, and maybe like just the YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook communities, find a way to make it more engaging and how we can provide the most value to our audience who end up listening to it. And then a goal would also be to eventually, when me and Emily do switch workflows, would be to get the hang of and understand insight from the marketing and PR perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which will then you can flip back and use that to help us grow the audiences on those specific platforms. Yeah, very cool. I love that. That sounds great. Go with it. And one thing I want to mention to the executives is, like, I have to do very, very little instruction or assignment of goals, because when you really give people the bandwidth, right, and the space to learn what they want to learn and get excited about the things that they want to take on. Like Justin, he's like, I want to do this, and it's going to improve the company, and it's going to improve the company under the umbrella of his responsibilities. So yeah, run with it, go
Yeah.
with it. And I'm super
I
proud of
think,
you.
yeah, I think another thing that's very cool about the position that I'm in is that you're my boss, but you're also a coach. Like you don't you're not like commanding me to do like assignments. You're kind of like helping me, and like you're not even mainly there most of the time. You just ask me questions that help me challenge myself and pretty much help me like figure out where I need to improve and how I can set goals, which is very beneficial because then I don't need to be managed in the future. Like it's teaching me to self-manage myself, to set goals, to actually um, like hit a target for the week or for the month. So you're not just kind of flying in the wind, I guess.
Yeah, that just made my life right now because you've heard my podcast, you've seen my quotes. I say that leaders don't lead followers, they turn followers into leaders. And what you just described, Justin, is becoming a leader, leading yourself, leading the projects that you've taken on. And so I'm really, really excited to hear that that's how you feel about it. But I
Mm-hmm.
do want to know, like, what more can I do? What else can I do to support you? What do you need from me going forward?
Yeah. I mean, you ask this question every time we have a meeting, so I never have a solid answer, but it's always um, keep letting me challenge myself, like the way you've been doing. Ask questions that help me figure it out.
Mhm.
And we talked about like potentially more opportunities for me to do in this role, and like the online leadership class that you have rolling.
Yeah.
Just more opportunities would just give me better insight for how to potentially run my own business if I decided to go down that path. And I don't know. I never know how to answer that question.
Well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that means that
Yeah,
I'm showing up in the way that you need. And Justin, do you feel comfortable if you do need something to me, coming to me and asking for it?
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Is there ever any time where you need me to provide you with, I don't know, more accountability, or do you feel like you've got that?
Um, I suppose accountability in what way do you think?
I don't know, like, hey, did you do what you said you were going to do this week? Or like that our end of our end of the week emails enough, you know?
Yeah, so we pretty much meet every Monday, and then I send a recap email like Thursday, and then you'll get back to me after that.
Sometime.
So I think, yeah, sometime. I think that's a good routine. I think that you give me a lot of feedback when you respond to me later in the week, and it helps me prepare going into the rest of the week and to the next week too. As long as I'm setting goals and like pursuing to attack like fulfill the entire goal. If you I don't know how to put this. If you are satisfied with my performance, then I mean, I guess I'd like to know. And if you aren't, then I guess I'd also like to know that. But usually, you do a pretty good job of letting me know where I stand in our meetings that we have.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like you want more feedback, like validation, or hey, this was
Yeah,
good. Hey, let's go in
I
that direction.
yeah, I feel like I'm big on feedback because if I don't hear anything from you, it's oftentimes like, well, I guess my first thought would be like, well, everything's going smoothly, so I don't really need to do
Yeah,
anything.
which a
But
lot
but
of the times it is.
oftentimes you can be like, you're doing great, but step it up on this, or like make this one adjustment, and that would help me to like get back on track or like just refocus sometimes.
Yeah. Or something that I want to tell the executives that are watching this, often I'll say like, hey, you're doing great. You know, how would you improve upon this? Or like, what would you do better here? Or do you have any ideas to how we can make this easier? And that way, Justin, who's a very intelligent, you know, man, he can come up with those ideas himself. And again, oftentimes they're going to be better than my own. And then if he brings an idea to me, we can go back and forth on it together as opposed to me just telling him what to do, fix it in this exact way.
Right.
So, but this is really great because I want to know, right, like where I can show up for you better. And
Yeah.
some people need more feedback, some people need less, some people need more in-person meetings, some people need less. I think one thing that I know that I can do better is just getting back. We kind of made a joke about it earlier, but getting back to you sooner, right? Those Thursdays are hard for me at the end of the week, and then I take Fridays off, but I can make sure that I email you before I go to bed on Thursday night. So I will make that commitment to you going forward to make sure that I get back to your emails, you know, hopefully within 24 hours, if not within 12. Does that suffice for you?
Awesome. That sounds great. And
Great.
I guess I'm just one of those people that appreciates feedback and validation and criticism.
Yeah.
Like I don't really take anything to heart. So if I'm doing something good, I mean, I appreciate, who doesn't appreciate like good validation or a compliment every now and then, but also if I'm doing
Yeah.
something that could use some adjustments, I also want to hear about that too.
Yes. Well, let me affirm you now, Justin, because like the work that you've been doing, we finally have really consistent, you know, outreach going on. We have an amazing podcast that ended up being way, way, way cooler than anything I ever could have come up with. And we do it consistently because you also hold me accountable by being here and being excited about it and taking ownership of it. Like I don't want to let you down too, you know, which is really
Right.
cool. So the energy that you bring to the table really drives me. And I just want to thank you for all of the work that you've done because you've really gone above and beyond. And even when you do get off course, which everybody does, you're like, oh, nope, let's get right back on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fun. It's really, really fun to work with someone who's becoming a really awesome self-leader. And that's what I am
Thank
seeing.
you.
You're going to be
I
set up for
appreciate it.
anything.
And
Absolutely.
I feel like having like a small business and like a 3-person team like provides more, I don't know. It's a better relationship than like a potential like larger team to where you don't get, I mean, we meet once, maybe twice a week, which is it's face to face, even though it's virtual. Like I've literally never met you in person, which is
I
weird,
know.
but
So crazy.
yeah.
Well, and I want to say to the executives that are listening out there to that statement, you know, this kind of culture is possible actually on a big team. It may take more time to develop, it may be harder to develop, but you
Yeah, for
absolutely can
sure.
create this kind of culture where everybody is self-led, taking ownership of their responsibilities, and the organization is growing and changing. You know, more rapidly in a positive direction because people are really excited and motivated about the projects they've taken on. So it doesn't matter if it's 3-person or if it's 30 or 300 or 3,000, you can absolutely obtain this kind of a culture. So thank you, Justin. And thank you for being willing to let us record it because I know it's kind of a vulnerable thing, right?
No, yeah, no problem. Hopefully I did okay.
You did great. Yeah, you were
Yeah,
awesome. You're always very well spoken and in front of the camera. And you're wearing a very nice golf shirt today.
thank you.
All right,
I
cool.
try to show up.
Yeah, you try to show up wearing clothes.
Yeah, wearing clothes. I might not be wearing pants, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, we had a whole podcast earlier about not wearing pants. So watch the impression management podcast when it releases because I mentioned
True.
pants like 20 times. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna bounce off and then I'm gonna jump on and work with Emily and we'll start our team meeting just a little bit late since
Okay,
maybe 10 minutes. Okay, cool.
sounds
I'll
good.
text you.
All right,
Thanks.
thank
All right.
you.
See ya. All right, and we're back. Now we're going to be doing a meeting with Emily. Emily is our other intern here at Hodges Coaching, and she's done an amazing job this summer. So normally when I do these meetings, these feedback, feed forward, review sessions, whatever you want to call them, I typically would ask slightly different questions to generate different answers from the person that I'm meeting with. But for the sake of helping you as executives understand how these are ran and how different employees can give you completely different answers, I'm going to go ahead and ask relatively the same series of questions. So I'm going to bring Emily in and kind of explain to her how it's all going to go. All right. I've got to remember how to use Zoom here. Okay. Unmute and ask to start video. There she is. Okay, cool. Hey, Emily.
Hi.
Emily just told me that she's actually vacationing up north, which is like a great vacation area in Michigan. You can go. Are you at a lake?
We're like 45 minutes south of Charlevoix in Bel Air.
Wow. So you're way up there.
Yeah, I think we're going to go into Charlevoix today.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and do this so that you can be free for your day and go hang out. So Emily, and to all the executives who are watching, again, we go through essentially 4 different sections. The first is where we review areas that you're really proud of, and we celebrate those accomplishments and ways that you've shown up that make you really, really excited. Then we'll talk about, areas where maybe you would have shown up differently. Like, you know what, I don't really love the way that I did that. I maybe would have done it differently. And again, this isn't a way to shame you or be like, yeah, you shouldn't have done it that way. I can't believe you. We'll just be like, okay, cool. So we acknowledge it, we accept it, and then we're going to figure out how to pivot out of that, We're also going to look at what you want to do more of, right? Basically, this is the how you want to change section. And then we're going to establish some goals. And then we're going to talk about how I can support you and how I can help you reach those goals. Okay. So it's kind of like what you're doing well, what you want to do differently, or like specific, get more specific about it, setting tangible goals, and then how I can meet your needs. Got it?
Got it.
Cool. And one thing that I want to just mention to the executives out there is that occasionally this is not going to be the case for Emily, but I do want to have this disclaimer that occasionally you're going to have somebody who has been underperforming quite a bit, right? In which case, though, something you would have done differently area is a place to help them safely explore where they're underperforming and see you as an advocate to help them rise, right? As opposed to it being disciplinary and punitive, okay? So when I ask her what's something you would have done differently or where are you showing up in a way where you're not super proud of, if you have somebody who's been underperforming, 99% of the time, they will admit that for you, right? If you phrase it in that way, so you don't have to be like, well, and you should have blah, blah, blah. Just a little disclaimer, little aside, but Emily's awesome and I have nothing to discipline her on. So I just realized we're not going to touch on that. So I have to tell them about this. So speaking of your awesomeness, what are you the most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of working on different programs that I wasn't whatsoever familiar with before this. And now I feel like walking away from this internship, I'll be able to confidently put on my resume, oh, I can work with Canva and MailChimp and Buffer and all these different platforms that like employers are going to be looking for. So I think that's been really special for this internship and really just like shaped me in a way that I'm able to confidently say that I can work on all these tasks and get things done.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of you for the fact that I didn't really teach you how to use those things. I mean, I gave you very little tutorial. I literally was like, I think we're going to start using MailChimp. Why don't you learn about it? And then tell me what you learned.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And you would come to me with like 11-page papers on how to use them and like the best techniques and the best tools. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I was just really, really impressed with the initiative that you took in learning all of those different software programs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anything else that you're super proud of or that you feel areas in which you feel really confident?
I think just being able to apply what I've learned in school. So when we, towards the beginning of the internship, I would make all the like best practices of newsletters and social media. I could take what I learned from school on top of like some secondary research that I did and then put it all together into some type of, paper format. And then once I had it in that format and down on paper, then being able to actually apply it to the position. So I think it's just kind of taking things from school to the internship and then kind of seeing it grow and put out there on social media.
That's really cool. And you haven't really mentioned that to me before, that this has been an opportunity for you to integrate what you've learned in your classes, and also, put it in real-time application with tools that a real business would use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when we were talking about doing the survey.
I worked with I
worked with a lot of that in my marketing research class. So that was really cool to, look back at my notes from class and see we're doing the same thing and I can apply all these same tactics and all this stuff. It was really cool.
Yes. Oh, that's so awesome. So then let's get more specific about where you're feeling, like, what are you the most confident about right now?
I think I've got a pretty good handle on social media. We now have a very structured layout of, what times we're posting, what things we're posting on which days, on which platforms, and we have
why.
Yeah, and the database that we can just pull content from, and now we can just upload weeks worth of content and buffer and just let it post out.
Yeah, absolutely. You've done a really great job at that. I feel like I can just let you go with it, and I trust that everything's going to look really awesome. We did have some discussions about, how things look, and but all of a sudden it's like we had a couple little chats about it, and you totally get the brand. Everything that you make is aesthetically beautiful. And I love, one of the things that I really love is that you're very intentional about, the visual, and you're also intentional about why we are, showing that particular visual to our audience and when is the best time to show that visual to our audience. And you've really brought all of those things together, which is really cool, because I probably would have been like, oh, I have 5 minutes to post on social media. Oh, shit, I got a phone call. Now I can't do it. And then it never would have happened. Right. And so it's been really cool to give you the reins on that, so to speak. Yeah, that's awesome. So anything else that you want to share that you're super proud of yourself for?
I think just the fact, like, when COVID-19 hit and I didn't have an internship lined up because interviews were getting canceled and other stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to spend my summer? I'm not going to have something on my resume. I was like so stressed out. I was like, I'm going to have nothing to do. So just the fact that I was able to interview with you, and then we kind of hit it off and just clicked, and then now I'm here. I'm really proud just to have an internship this summer, because I know a lot of people's internships and job opportunities got canceled, so I'm just super grateful to have this opportunity.
Oh, I'm so glad. I didn't even realize that, and I'm so grateful to have you. You've been doing it. You've done an incredible job. You've taken us from basically no social media to posting pretty much every day on all of the platforms, and valuable content too, right? It's not just BS.
Yeah.
So, all right. So can we pivot to the difficult part where you're like, all right, where would I have maybe done this differently? And this is a safe time, right? Like, it's an okay time to bring that up, and I'll support you. Anything in particular?
I think kind of going off of that idea, there was a 2-week time between when classes ended and between when I started the internship, where I had nothing to do, no classes, no internship, had nothing to do. And then so going from that to now having an internship, it was a little bit hard for me to get the time management down at first.
Okay.
So after those first couple weeks, I would write out a schedule for the following day. And I'd say from this time to this time, I was going to work on strictly internship stuff, put the phone away, turn the TV off, just work on stuff. So that's at the beginning, it was kind of hard for me, because I went from having nothing to do to actually having something to do. So I just had to make sure I was taking the time, so I wasn't just the night before our meetings trying to do everything.
Yes, that's so awesome to hear. And so this is really interesting, and I didn't expect this to come up, but for all the executives out there watching, I had no idea that her time management wasn't super solid. What I saw on my end was her adjusting and getting into the internship, and I expected that. And so what will often happen when you get to this point in your feedback meetings or your review meetings is that if you ask that question, a lot of times your staff member will come to you and they'll tell you things that they were working on, and that maybe they could have done better, that you would never have like disciplined them for, right? Or like give them a talking to for. And it's cool. And I think that builds a lot of trust, because then you know that they are self-leading, they're self-managing, right? Like I didn't have to go in and be like, put your exact hours in from 9:30 to 10:30 here. She just knew when she wasn't doing her best, and she adjusted it so that she could. And Emily, I'm really freaking proud of you for that. Like that takes a lot of self-management that, you know, a lot of like seasoned, like, I don't want to say adults because you're an adult, but you know what I mean? Like older people who with more experience have a lot of trouble doing. People that I coach, quite frankly, and here you are just getting organized and doing it yourself. So way to go.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So then moving forward, what do you want to do more of?
I really like where we're going with the newsletter. That's been really fun. I think that if you ever have any opportunities of any more like sales calls or collections calls, I have no problem getting on the phone with people.
Yes.
And yeah, if you ever anything to do with sales, that's like really big right now. And I took a professional selling class, so I'm kind of eager to apply the tactics that I learned there.
Good.
And I pretty much just like whatever marketing, public relations, social media management, anything you have that you want to throw at me, I'm game for it. Like at the end of the day, it's just one more thing to put on my resume and one more thing to like learn and apply. So
great. This is perfect timing, because you and Justin are going to be switching your workflows for, a couple of weeks at least. And that will give you time to learn some of the marketing and the outreach that he's been doing. He's been doing more prospecting and things like that. And then one of the next things that we're going to be doing is developing a media packet. So I'm working with someone on that right now. And I love it, because I feel like with you guys, you're so eager. And if anything, I only have so much time in the day, and I act like a bottleneck more than anything, right? I'm like, oh, you have to wait until I get this done. And then, a week later, it finally happens. But so I love that. So those are definitely directions in which I want to go. So it's cool to know that those are areas where you're really eager to explore, so we can unify on those. So, if we are doing that, right? If you're learning more about, prospecting, and you're learning more about sort of PR stuff, what would you have to change or adjust in order to move forward and work on that stuff?
I think I definitely have to dedicate more time, just because there's going to be a learning curve at first. Trying to understand, what Justin's been working on and what he's like put his time into, and I'm sure he's got it down pat by now, but it's going to take me just a little bit longer to figure things out. So yeah, probably just setting aside more time and just kind of allowing myself to, go through the learning curve and not get frustrated, and, just work through it and figure it out.
Cool. So it sounds like this time you're ready to dedicate more time, where at the beginning it was kind of a shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So you're like, the first thing you go to is like, I don't want that to happen again. I need to set aside more time.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. It sounds like you've got that handled. So how do you want, like, in terms of setting a metric for like, what specific goals do you want to set for, let's say, the next month and a half, 2 months?
I think as far as like within the next week, I want to get like most of August, or like the first like 2 weeks of August, into Buffer. So start working on that content.
And for all the execs out there, Buffer is where we schedule all the social media posts, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
We have a lot of software that we use to run this organization.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then, like, I know we have the timeline for when to get the newsletter out. So hopefully getting like the initial one out this week, and then 2 weeks from then putting out the first bi-weekly, and then 2 weeks from there putting out the second. I'm trying to think, maybe if you have any more like calls to make that I can take off your hands, get a couple of those.
Yeah, I might have you do some follow-up calls with people who were interested in coaching, or people who have signed up for coaching to call in and ask how things are going. And, if, kind of almost running like phone call interviews.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That way they get a little more touch point from us, and they might feel more comfortable telling you something like, I didn't really like this, than they do me. And that's okay. We want to know those things. Although you guys can always tell me, seriously. But if you don't feel comfortable telling me, you can tell them it's public relations over here. Why doesn't it show your name? It shows public relations. This is Emily Hughes, for all of you who want to steal her from me. And you know what? I never thought about that. I bet you people are going to try to poach you guys. I'm going to block out your last names until this internship is done.
Because when I like made the Zoom account with like the public relations email, I just made it that. So like if you ever had like another like public relations intern, it wasn't like my name. It was just like public relations.
You are so awesome. Look at you. Thinking for the future. So, okay. So you have a lot of objectives in terms of the newsletter, of new things that you want to learn. As we bring in more PR, we can get you some more phone calls. I can do all of that stuff. In order to meet some of those, let's get a little bit more specific. Okay. So you got the first, you have specific goals around the newsletter. You have specific goals around social. Any specific goals around switching workflows with Justin?
I know that last time we talked, he had some metrics as far as how many connections per week and then how many messages. I think it was like 100 messages a week, maybe.
I don't remember.
500
it's in there
connections.
somewhere.
I don't know. I wrote it down. But just matching the same metrics that he's been working on to keep it consistent and kind of level up to what he's been working on.
I love it. Yeah. And don't feel, I want to encourage both of you guys too. Like, this is an opportunity to learn the workflow. You're testing it and also improve upon it. And when you hand it back, make it even better. Like, why not? You guys can both put your flavor on it.
Yeah.
He might come up with a really cool social post in Canva you never would have thought of.
Right.
And it blows your mind, and then it helps you expand,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just like a guinea pig for you guys to learn on it. I'm totally cool with that. It's pretty much, nothing's very permanent, and so far you guys have done an amazing job. So how can I support you more to meet all of those goals and to get what you want out of this internship?
Honestly, I think you've been like really incredible so far. I tell all my friends about you. I'm like, this is like the best boss I ever had.
Glad to hear that.
Honestly, like, you're always just a text message away and you always respond, and you respond to my emails. And I like that you give me feedback. Like, you'll always say like, oh, it's not that I don't like it, or I just would tweak this one certain thing. And I'm like, if I brought something to you on the first draft and you said it was perfect, I would seriously question what was going on, because to me,
there are a few first drafts you bring to me and I'm like, good enough. Go.
Yeah, I feel like things like can have a few drafts, but you always give me your honest feedback, which is exactly what I need, because that's going to help me grow and come up with better content. So just from you, just keep being honest and letting me know what you think about what I bring to you, and I think we're going to be good.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And something that I want to pause again and address to the executives who are watching, with Emily or with anybody, when they bring me a draft of something and it requires some feedback, I think it's really important to talk about what they did well and what you want to see even more of, right? Like, this is going in the right direction. And so one thing that I asked you once, which was a moment that honestly, like, I'm proud of, and I think I'll do again, is that I asked you, like, you came up with an amazing social media post that was totally on brand. It looked gorgeous. And I asked you, can you use some descriptive words to describe what you like about this? And I did that so you had something concrete. Like, you're not like, this one's good, make them all like this, but no, what was it about it, right? And you came up with very descriptive words that completely defined our brand. And then you can use that vocabulary then, right? Like, those descriptive terms for future posts, which I think is more helpful than just like, okay, they all need to look like this, right?
Yeah.
So I try really hard to offer these guys more like signposts of go in this direction, go in that direction. Yes, that direction's good. Keep going in that direction, which is based in neuroscience, right? When we're creating new habits or we're learning something new, it's easier for us to do more of what we're doing well than to stop doing something that isn't going so well. If I was like, well, stop that and stop that and stop that, it might just make her feel like, oh, I don't do anything right. So and you wouldn't know that I'm responding to you in that way. So I'm kind of taking the veil off and letting them know that is, that's intentional to help her thrive, right? And if she thrives, we all thrive. When the tide rises, the ships rise, and so yeah, that's intentional. But, I also feel like, in terms of me being open, like there's definitely, and I told this to Justin, there's definitely times where I can get back to you sooner. I think there's an email that you sent me on Thursday that I still haven't responded to in terms of like just okay in a social media post. And it's in the back of my mind. And there's a couple of things where I'm like, oh, I think I should get to this on Thursday. Like, I serve as a bottleneck for you guys more than anything. So I think that what I'm going to make sure I do going forward is that I just really, I put it higher on my priority list when I tell you guys that I'm going to execute a task for you, whether it's create a new account for new software, right? Or double check something before we send it out. I will try to really prioritize that. And in fact, I think I'm going to set aside some like a half hour for that stuff every day, which is usually enough to just make sure that I'm addressing all of your needs. Because this has been a learning curve for me too. This is the first summer where I've had some new interns, and I also don't feel like I had like crazy childcare issues, but not make excuses. The reality is I did not set time in my schedule to make sure that I didn't act as a bottleneck for you. So I'm going to put that in from 3:15 to 3:45. I know exactly when every day. So would that be helpful to you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Anything else in that area that I can do differently
I don't think so.
And I asked Justin this question too, and I'm going to ask it to you. How comfortable do you feel coming to me when you have a need?
Very comfortable, because I know you're going to give your honest feedback. I know you're not going to like be rude, or you're just going to, critique it a little bit. And you're always so positive too. And you always like, it makes me feel so good when you're like, you'll email me or like comment on something and you're like, oh, Emily, this is awesome. Like, thank you so much. Like, that really puts like a value on what I've been working on. It makes me feel really confident. So,
well, I from the very beginning, which is why I was shocked about the whole time management thing. From the very beginning, you have gone above and beyond. You have done an absolutely incredible job. You brag about me to your friends. I brag about you to my husband. I'm like, I have the best interns ever. Emily came to me with another like 25 research paper on like best practices for newsletters, and he's like, what? And he goes, how do they do it? And he's so funny because he's the opposite of me, where he like is very like gives people very clear directions and wants them to show up in exactly the way he wants to show up. And he goes, I told him about my leadership program, and I told him all the elements of it, like setting boundaries and clarity and gratitude. He goes, I don't get it. What about just like telling them what to do and getting them to do it? And I'm like, all right, you need to take my course, dude.
Yeah.
That's not really a leadership.
Yeah.
But so it's very validating for me to know that you have shown up in such an awesome way and that you're excited and want to learn more and move forward. So thank you so much. Any corporation or small business or anybody would be totally lucky and amazed to have you and impressed with your hard work.
Thank you.
You are going to go far. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we have a meeting actually after this right now. I'm going to go pee because I've been back to back all morning, and I'm going to leave that in the recording. And and I'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Emily.
All right. Yeah, of course.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.